Welcome to a special episode of Money Travels presented by Visa. I'm Rich.
I'm Max, and this is a very unique episode.
We look back on some of the amazing guests we've had through season 3.
And I want to say a big thank you to all our guests and all of you watching and listening to Money Travels season 3.
We've created 3 key themes that we've spoken about: financial inclusion and that real human impact, the creator economy, the payments backbone, and the complexity of B2B payments. A lot of these people are super successful now, yet they're still there 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, just working on delivering real change.
You don't create a business just for the sake of creating a business. You're creating a business because you see that there is something to fix. You see that there are people to help, and you're doing it. It's probably the right time to bring us back and look at a few of the key learnings from JP Nichols.
At the edge of the money, or maybe think about it as the opposite end of the money, where it's close to the customer, it really means something to them. It's not just debits and credits and ones and zeros. It's putting a child through college. It's expanding the home for a growing family. It's expanding a business. It's hiring new people. And so the more that we can understand the context around that, is the more opportunity we have to put some value around that.
And then we had Costa from the Gates Foundation, who's obviously spent years working on including kind of the unbanked in their work. I think that was a really good example of understanding the consequences of kind of limited access to financial services. And for him, digital access was like this key step from moving beyond that kind of expensive, time-consuming, risky forward of money movement, which was cash.
It can be expensive because if you are a woman in a remote village in a country and you have a son working in the big city, he wants to send you money back. But if you don't have any digital way, well, the only way is to transport cash through some bus driver or someone who goes back to the village, and that may be free, that may be not free, and that may actually not make it back then, and so forth. So.
On the human impact, obviously, like the most moving episode with a profound purpose of Ansel. It's been like an absolute joy, and it was an in-person episode in London. They flew over from South America to London to actually do that with us. That was absolutely moving and stunning. And we went deep into the purpose of their business and the impact of their business on migrants. But also, I really like the partnership with this unsung hero at Visa Government Solutions that we never talked about before, and that partnership. And Margaret and John have been absolutely fantastic at explaining the deep problems and concerns that migrants have when they move from one country to another. And I would say especially when there's not the same currency between the country you come from and the country you move to. You should watch this episodes, watch this clip that we built for you.
She was a very, very important for us to understand the issue that the population live. She bring our home with a gift card from the NGO. And this gift card was for a very grocery store or supermarket in Colombia, and was a very expensive supermarket for Colombia. So how you give a help to a person and you give a gift card to buy in a store that is so expensive? So she tried to sell the card to Margaret. So when she tried to sell the card, they said, why you sell the card? They said, okay, I need the cash because with this, I can buy in different store that is cheaper and I can buy more things. So sometimes the NGOs and also the government, they give this kind of help, but they don't really understand the necessity of the person. As Margaret said, sometimes you need for food, but maybe you need for education, you need for transportation. with a debit card, with a prepared card, Visa, you can use the money where you really need it.
Because if you think about financial inclusion as kind of that first step, and that's where kind of Jennifer kind of painted that picture, Jennifer Tesher, because she talked about this shift from, I guess, inclusion to outcomes. And I thought what was really interesting is her discussion around having a bank account is like just step one. That hasn't stopped.
Our research shows that financially healthy customers are better customers. They're stickier, they're more loyal, they use or are open to using more products from that same institution. So literally, from a business case perspective, the more you can try to improve the financial health of your customer, you're essentially building a better book of business.
You know, the majority of Americans from struggling financially. So I think that was really interesting. And I think on top of that, the message was, this is not just about charity. Like financial health, financial inclusion is actually a really good kind of business strategy. And this is what she explains here.
And Ambassador did the same, right? We talked also about the purpose and the business strategy behind it, and how the therapy business helps people to actually move money faster, better, in a more convenient way, and you help family in different part of the world to actually pay for all the necessities, right? And we also reminded ourselves that more than 1 billion people across the globe actually rely on remittances to live every day, which is a massive number, right? And those businesses have actually changed this and changed the way we're looking at financial inclusion.
Somebody's working on one of those gig economy sites. He's designed a website. He's designed, changed a PDF form for you, and he's getting $5. So we've worked with the regulator to explain this. We've worked with the partner, the wallet partner, to reduce their fees so that they can accept a $5 transaction. And it's working well. We see it, and in the emerging markets is where a lot of the gig economy sits, right? The guys across the world who are doing retyping your letters or doing PDF formats, doing a PPT, all of that. So we work with all of them, and luckily they have wallets. So wallets allow for lower value transactions, and they're working on that. So yes, we're doing that.
So I think that clip conveniently kind of moves us into this second thing that I was talking about, like that kind of payments backbone and that kind of unpicking the complexity. And I think if you listen to the next clip from Amber, what he does, he talks about that kind of move from slow traditional kind of banking rails to this kind of real kind of intelligent digital movement. And that really needs this rethink of what the payment network even is. And obviously from Amber's experience from kind of mobile into money, and also TerraPay's mission, which was around what did he say? Like how do you do to money what roaming did to telecom? And I think he explains it well here.
To allow the wallet to roam, allow the wallet to become global. That's what we really wanted to do. Otherwise, it's an individual thing sitting in a country, and yes, you can use it to pay for groceries, you can use it to pay for airtime top up or some other services, but it really is worthless outside the country. And that's what we wanted to do. Because if you look at the world today, it's shrinking. There's trade all across the world, whereas digitally it is cheaper, but it requires higher speed. And at that same speed, you need to cover compliance issues as well. So if you're going, if you're transmitting that money in 10 seconds, that means you finish your KYC, AML, sanction screening, everything within 10 seconds and send the money across.
And that last point on speed is crucial. And Ben Shizzle also unpacked that a lot, explaining the importance of, getting the money straight away, being paid as fast as possible, as an individual or as an employee. We talked about that, but there was also this point around yes, there is speed, but there is also compliance, right? And I think it was we also talk about it with the angle of reliability, making sure that actually the money travels from point A to point B, and there is this level of reliability that money will go, but also transparency of where the money is, because businesses depend on it. And Ben Shizzle from PaySense explained that extremely well in this clip.
And because there's money held kind of in transit through that period, it has an effect of the liquidity on the liquidity of the business operations as well. So when you're trying to grow a business and you have those two specific problems with a high cost base and it's a drain on your kind of corporate cash, this is something that really does constrain your growth. And so solving this problem essentially allows companies to have more cash available at any particular time through the year that they can go and invest in innovation instead of something that's tied up in cash in transit as it's moving through different countries. So we've gone essentially in terms of managing our business here to something where those funds could be tied up for 3 to 5 days to something where they arrive in terms of being settled funds and able to use in 15 seconds.
There's a really interesting clip with Camilla Bullock, because she talks about just the foundations needing to be fixed before we can talk about how quick money flows. And I think the work that Camilla and the Emerging Payments Association of Asia are doing talked about kind of the need for data to move first, making digital identity kind of that holy grail of global payments. So this is Camilla talking about that.
Trade is good for everyone, but there is no trade without payments, and there is no payments without a movement of data. The biggest thing we can do as an industry is to crack digital identity.
We also talk about innovation in this theme. We talked about, and Ruben Lim actually talked about it very, very well. He highlighted a few of those innovations, which now are probably part of our everyday, but back a few years ago, like QR codes was brand new, and constraints have actually forced us to innovate. COVID was one of them, but there were many others, and we talked about how the fintechs, but also the banks are bringing net new innovation to help people and make payments an experience rather than a complicated one.
In Singapore alone, we already have collaboration with Thailand, with India, where I can scan a QR code and make that payment. And in my recent trips to both Thailand and India, I tried that and it works beautifully. So I can actually transfer money without using my own local bank account. And I think that is already happening to make it more seamless. In terms of the magnitude,
sometimes on these type of podcasts, like industry-specific podcasts, you have a tendency to use industry-specific terminology. And I think there's been a couple of episodes where we have kind of broken that down to kind of like layman's talks, but I think we probably need to do a bit of a better job of like really bringing that down to people who are just not from this world, who obviously use money, spend money, send money, but breaking down the mechanics of kind of how this stuff works.
So then Richard talked about our third key themes for the year, which was, let's call it the new economy, the new economy. You talked about the creator economy, but it is also about wages, etc. And of course, we can't talk about the creator economy without talking about Colin and Samir.
Yeah, my daughter, I suddenly went up in my daughter's estimation when I said I was talking to Colin and Samir. She's like, what do you do? Are you like a creator? But I think what was really interesting is where we are in this kind of money movement space. We're in this new era of kind of entrepreneurs and creators, gig workers, freelancers, earned wage access, as you said, where financial products and services need to relate to kind of their, I guess, irregular income streams. And now they're seen as kind of legitimate small businesses. So I think The Colin and Samir episode was really, really interesting. And actually, they explain it much better than us about why their business model kind of demands a new type of financial partner.
The way that works is you do need time and space to build an audience and then solve, how to monetize. I think typical entrepreneurship is let me build a product and let me find customers for that product. Creator entrepreneurship is let me build an audience and let me find products for that audience, right? So it goes, it's the inverse. So I think on the funding side, what a lot of creators need is bigger credit limits. They need to have space to evaluate, to fund their ideas. I think they need financial institutions that can understand them. And then I think on the creator side, I think you need to understand who you are as a creator. There's such a big spectrum of what it means to monetize your creativity, to be a creator in 2025.
And I think on that theme of kind of this shift in legitimacy, obviously it was only a few years ago that banks didn't really know how to classify kind of the businesses and of the creative businesses. But kind of now that sophistication of funding options and revenue streams is really helping banks catch up. Again, Colin Smith kind of discussed this really well.
I think we've actually come to a very sophisticated point in financing and funding of creator businesses. I think banks have caught up, which is great. I think there's also a lot of banks that understand us as startups now, which is great. And startup banking is something that, that exists. I still think our product is less understood and our the way revenue comes in is less understood. But I think there's so many more ways to make money as a creator today that revenue can come in a lot faster than back in 2012 when we were trying to navigate a $300 check here, a $1,000 check there. If you're good at what you do, if you can tell a great story, you're probably starting to make thousands of dollars pretty quickly.
I think you talked about the new type of financial partner. It was also a lot about financial literacy and how important and underestimated it is for creators and a lot of people coming and building net new economies. How important it is also for all of us to be trained and to understand better the intricacies of the financial systems and the financial industry. That has been also very much highlighted in the episode with Colin and Samir. And I think we definitely should go back to it. And as an industry, this is a really, really good and important takeaway for us.
If we could just set up a system where it automatically suggested a percentage of that check to go into a savings account or to go into, whatever our max contribution could be of a SEP IRA, I think we need more automated and templatized systems for creative individuals and maybe for any individual to go, hey, this is the type of revenue I'm receiving. These are the factors of my life. Here's the inputs. Now, can you output a plan and execute on that plan? And I think that is very possible in the world of AI today. I think it's very possible to just essentially, in a radically simple form, type in what your outcome you're working towards is and get suggested ways to slowly get to that outcome. I think people are always shocked when they find out about small investments that turn into large sums of money, when they find out about the ability to maybe take some of your capital and put them into bonds, to take some of your capital and put it into a retirement account. And I think, there's one element which is human to human, but there's another element where I think we can build just compelling automations for that. And I think creative individuals would love a little bit of out of sight, out of mind, but peace of mind that it's happening, that I am building some level of stability and some level of safety net while my head is, down working on my creative craft.
And this is not only for the creator economy. I think you mentioned that, right? The gig economy, but also anyone's wages, right? This is very important to actually appreciate the transparency and the ability to get access to your fund. And Ryan Meng from Daily Pay explained that very well. But on top of that, really showed us some, different realities as well. Because Money Travels, what's amazing with the podcast is we've explored and we've talked to people from different parts of the world, and you could see innovation in North America and how Daily Pay helps, the gig workers or any employee to actually get access to their funds anytime.
And I think with Ryan, this wasn't just about kind of that covering of kind of immediate crises. This was around enabling kind of that longer term financial control. There's a clip that will show you, which is where he talks about kind of his vision for the future, and where earned wage access has helped people kind of achieve genuine kind of financial autonomy. If they don't offer this, because if you're an employer who's living paycheck to paycheck, surely one of the things you say is, does my company or my future employer offer me the access to take my funds when I need them?
Well, it's a great question, and what's been super fun for me to see is that when they're going out and trying to win let's just say somebody from their competitor in any industry for that matter, it's now expected to be offered by that employer. So maybe 5 years ago it wasn't expected, and now it's expected to be offered. So that's been super fun. It's similar to the way 401ks were, maybe going back, 12, 13 years ago, where you couldn't really get away with not offering a 401k, 403b anymore. The same rules now apply to on-demand pay. I would like to see a much more evenly distributed, call it world of folks that are able to save on their own, meaning not look to the government, not look to like emergency scenarios, not look anywhere other than what they've been able to contribute on their own. And I think we are going to play a huge part in helping people do that.
So that's it, Max, for season 3. I think everybody says that, but genuinely it's gone by really, really quickly. I think it really dug into the stories behind these businesses, the real human impact. I've learned a hell of a lot along the way. We've had some unbelievable guests on. It's been a real privilege. A huge thank you, obviously, to my co-host Max, but more importantly for the guest. But it's been fantastic.
I don't want to sound negative, but I have some regrets. I have some things I would love to do.
Your choice of partner on this? Your choice of co-host?
Well, that's number one, but this one was not my choice, obviously. We try to explore the different aspects of our industry, and I think we have many more to explore. And I wish season 3 was longer, and that's probably going to be for season 4. Stay tuned. But that's, looking at, getting government, for example, on our podcast, exploring, other NGOs with different angles, looking after, or talking to people that are really deep into, compliance, which is something that we don't often talk, or that we often see as a constraint, but actually is probably something we should unpack a little bit more. Give more people, the time and air cover to actually unpack those aspects of the financial industry that are probably unappreciated or unknown. All these people building networks and what's happening behind the scene, unpacking that for the audience. I think I would love to do, to go above and beyond in terms of the different aspects that we cover for season 4 for sure.
I like your little move into the biggest regrets of the season. I think for me is that we still haven't been invited to the Royal Palace in the Netherlands, despite, is it Queen Maxima who's like come up like 2 or 3 times as a recommended guest? But I think you and I would do very well, maybe all suited and booted, rather than our kind of cool podcasting outfits in front of the Royal Palace. So maybe that's one thing that we can look to do.
It's been an amazing season. Actually not sad to see it ending, because I'm looking forward for season 4 with more amazing guests and new opportunity to learn more. It's also, we never talk about it, but it's also a massive learning curve for Rich and I in hosting these episodes and this season. And we really value your feedback and comments. This helps us to actually build better episodes for you. And it's not, as Rich said, not only us, but with the wider team behind it to actually support all of this. And a big part is actually people from my team. So big kudos to my team that has spent a lot of time and be very patient with us throughout the season. I think season 4 is going to be at another level and another amazing one. And I'm really looking forward to it.
And we just need one of those clappers.
Oh, yes.
In our stockings this year, I really want one of those clappers so we can end these episodes saying that brings the curtain down on season 3. Here's to season 4. See you then.